This has all led to more and more urgent demand for housing, putting significant pressure on the cost of housing. It's been impacting people everywhere, pushing people like teachers, firefighters, police officers, young people out of their communities. That's why we introduced the speculation and vacancy tax in 2018, targeting speculators, and quickly helped turn thousands of empty units into homes for people. And we have made enormous success in communities where it has been applied. Thousands of homes are now being lived in because of this. It has been making a difference in these communities, and we have to keep going. Now, we know there's additional pressures we're facing when it comes to housing. Rising interest costs, global inflation, supply chain issues. It's all led to this point, and our government is focused on for this fall. People are calling for solutions, and we're listening. We've been busy this fall, brought in a series of important legislation to tackle the housing crisis. First, we've taken strong action to turn more short-term rentals back into long-term homes for people. We introduced new small-scale multi-unit legislation designed to deliver more housing options like townhomes, triplexes, laneway homes that are within reach for people. We've taken steps to ensure growing communities have the funds they need for important infrastructure, while providing greater certainty and transparency for home builders. And most importantly, we introduced new legislation to help build more homes near transit hubs and create more livable communities. But we're not close to being done yet. Speculative behavior has been a long time a problem in British Columbia, and it is a problem we have been addressing head on. Today, we're announcing another step called in our Homes for People strategy, the expansion of the speculation and vacancy tax. And at this point, I'll call up Minister of Finance, Katrina Conroy, who will share more information about today's announcement.
Thank you, Ravi, and hi, everyone. To echo what Minister Callan is saying, we are taking strong action to deliver housing for people in BC. But like so many other jurisdictions around the world, we are in a housing crisis. It's creating economic challenges like labor shortages and people feeling like they're being pushed out of their own neighborhoods, like Diane, for example. Diane's a senior that wrote to my office to express her concerns about being evicted from their long-term housing and then struggling to find somewhere suitable and affordable to live. Meanwhile, she noticed there are a number of empty units sitting there. That's just not okay. Homes shouldn't be left empty, and they shouldn't be used as investments for speculators. Homes should be used by people so they can live where they work and where their children go to school. While the opposition has said they would cancel the speculation tax, giving a handout to speculators and turning homes back into empty condos, we know that people can't afford that. We need to keep taking action to support people struggling to find secure housing. And the speculation and vacancy tax is one of the ways we can make sure we have homes are being used for people. And that's why we're expanding the tax to more municipalities in BC starting in 2024. These communities include Vernon and Coldstream, Penticton and Summerland, Lake Country and Peachland, Courtenay, Comox and Cumberland, Parksville and Qualicum Beach, Salmon Arm and Kamloops. With this addition, the tax now applies to a total of 59 communities in British Columbia. And through this expansion, the speculation and vacancy tax is encouraging owners of multiple homes to rent them or sell them. We're announcing this now to give owners time to decide how they want to move forward before it's time to declare. And we know this tax is successful. It's added more than 20,000 home units to the long-term rental market in the Metro Vancouver area. It's helping people in our communities find homes. Homes for desperately needed workers, like Ravi said, nurses, firefighters, teachers. Homes for young people who feel stuck at their parents' homes. Homes for seniors on fixed incomes. And homes for family who can't find a home they can afford. In the same amount of time, the tax also has raised more than $313 million to help fund new affordable housing in communities with the speculation and vacancy tax. While some oppose the speculation tax, our plan is to continue to deliver homes and keep taking action. Expanding the speculation tax is just one of the many actions. We continue to look at ways to build on the benefits of the speculation tax and to keep houses as homes for people and not revenue generators for speculators. We are also committed to working closely with our partners to unlock more homes. These partners include municipal governments and regional districts. And I really appreciate the conversations I've had with mayors over the last few months, but especially yesterday when I talked to the mayors that are involved in the new expansion. And a number of them, you'll see quotes in our press release. But right now, here to talk to us about the launch of the speculation and vacancy in his community in 2022 is Rob Douglas, the mayor of North Cowichan. So I'd like to turn the mic over to him. Rob.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to join you here today on National Housing Day to discuss the expansion of the speculation and vacancy tax. We're facing a housing crisis in communities right across Canada that's not only impacting the urban centres in places like Vancouver and Victoria, but also in many smaller and mid-sized communities like my own in the district of North Cowichan. In my community, housing prices are increasingly out of reach for working families, and we have a rental vacancy rate of close to 0%. As a municipality, we're using the limited tools that we have available to increase the supply of local affordable housing and to protect our existing rental housing stock. We've adopted a new affordable housing we've developed a new affordable housing policy and action plan that includes a wide range of actions to tackle the housing crisis, including requiring a minimum number of affordable housing units in major new developments and encouraging more accessory dwelling units like secondary suites and coach houses throughout our community. We're also working closely with the province through BC Housing on a number of bricks and mortar affordable housing projects, and one of these we hope to break ground on in the coming months that would deliver almost 100 non-market housing units that are desperately needed in our community. However, as a municipality, we are limited in terms of our powers and our resources in order to tackle the housing crisis. And to really see long-term solutions to this problem requires action from the senior levels of government. We're pleased to see the strong leadership that's been being provided by the province on the housing front, including from Premier Eby, from Minister Conroy and Minister Callahan. These include, as the ministers mentioned, the legislative changes that will regulate the short-term rental market and turn these into long-term homes for people. The recently announced legislative changes to allow more small-scale multi-unit developments, and then also the announcement that was made in August regarding a new round of funding for the Community Housing Fund, which I know as municipalities we really appreciated, and in our case we did manage to submit a proposal to the province. We anticipate each of these moves will have a positive impact in communities like ours in North Cowichan, and we're hard at work right now updating our policies and our bylaws, including our outdated land use zoning to ensure they're aligned with the provincial direction. With regards to today's announcement, we welcome being included as an area in the speculation and vacancy tax, which we anticipate is going to discourage speculative investment practices in our community while turning empty housing units into homes for our local residents. When the speculation and vacancy tax was announced in 2018, our municipality did express concern that we had not been included and that we were sandwiched in between Nanaimo to the north and Victoria in the south, which we were concerned was going to put upward pressure on our housing prices. The province did respond to our concerns and added us as one of the taxable areas. And I have to say, as a local government level, we do appreciate being heard from the province. We are glad to see the further expansion of this tax, and would just like to stress that as a municipality, we do appreciate the decisive action that the province is taking with regards to the housing crisis. We look forward to more details over the coming weeks as the policy guide is shared with municipalities, and just want to emphasize that we are here as a willing partner to ensure that we're able to build more affordable homes and faster for the people across this province. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And I think that gives you a really good example of some real-time actions that are happening in collaboration with our partners across the province. So I really thank you for being here, Mayor. It was good to hear what you had to say. And now all of us are available for questions.
Thank you. As a reminder to media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue for one question and a follow-up. I welcome media on site to kindly raise your hand if you have a question. Our first question comes from the room. Richard Zussman, Global News.
Whistler, the Gulf Islands, Sunshine Coast, Tofino continue to be exempt here. They are communities also in the midst of housing crisis as well. Why keep these resort tourism-based communities off the list?
So we have kept resort communities off the list. There's a number of them, and there's those concerns expressed. And we're talking to those communities. We're talking to UBCM, to regional districts right across the province for people that haven't been included. Salt Spring is interesting. There's a group of people from the government that represent Salt Spring that have approached us that want to be included, and then there's a group that have asked to have more discussion about it that don't want to be included quite yet. So we've heard that across the province. Many of you who might have been at the housing forum at UBCM, we heard from small communities who want to be included. So I've directed my ministry to look at what can we do to ensure that we have economies of scale, that because these are we look at the communities as a region, and the funding is based on regional inclusion. So we want to make sure that we have the funding on a regional basis. So we're looking at regional districts, we're looking at smaller communities, we're looking at places like Salt Spring. For the moment, though, we are not going to be moving into resort towns, but that's just for the moment.
Some of these communities do have a large tourism footprint. You have places like Parksville, Penticton, Lake Country, Summerlin. You may have places there where Metro Vancouver residents have secondary homes for the summer. Are you worried about the impact on that type of economy by putting the tax in place where you have areas there that rely on this housing for their peak tourism seasons?
And what we've done is we've given owners just over a year to make a decision, so they can rent out on a part-time basis as long as a minimum of 6 months. They can rent out on a permanent basis if they so choose. They can sell if they so choose, or they can pay the tax. And the tax, as I said, has brought in over $313 million into the communities, and that money is going right back into the communities to build affordable housing for people in those communities.
Our next question comes from Rob Buffer, CTV.
Oh, hi, Minister. I just wanted to follow up on Richard's first question. You said you're not ruling out, I guess, of imposing the tax on a community like Whistler, and you're having these discussions. But I guess, what is the reason you have not included it yet on Whistler specifically?
Well, we're not imposing the tax. In quite a few cases, we've been asked to bring the tax in. And we've had people ask us, why don't you just put a blanket tax across the entire province and people and municipalities can opt out? So we're looking at different ways of implementing the further implementation and further expansion of this tax. Right now, we've been advised not to bring it into those very resort-based communities, just for that reason. And we will, we'll continue to look at options throughout the province. But right now, we're not looking at the resort-based communities. We're looking at other options too. The Minister Callan has done many options for communities like Whistler. We've been talking with the council at Whistler to what we can do to help with housing issues, because it's especially for people that are working there that need housing.
I guess by way of follow-up, I did want to ask you, why not impose it across the province?
Well, just not ready to do that yet. It's a question that we've been asked, and it's like, we pose it across the province and people can opt out, but you want to make sure that you're doing it. Like I said, we need that economy of scale. We need to look at those smaller communities. I had a small community of population 500 who have a number of homes that go dark in the winter, and people are only there in the summer. They would dearly like to see those places rented out to people during the not the summer season. But is there an economy of scale of what we can put back into the community? So we're looking at what we can do with smaller communities, regional districts, looking at that regional drift. And we have done that with some communities where there has been regional drift, where the municipality said that they were being affected, or the local communities were being affected by a larger municipality that had the SVT. I think Lake Country is a good example of that, a really good example of how they were affected by Kelowna, because people were moving into Lake Country, and the mayors said they're struggling to make, because it's a great community for families to move to, and they're struggling to find that housing. So they really are happy with that expansion.
Next question comes from Rob Shaw, Check News.
Hey, Minister. When the speculation tax was created in 2018, Parksville and Qualicum were included and then taken out before it was implemented. Part of the reason from Finance Minister Carol James was that people with cottages at the lake or cabins or the islands will not pay this tax. People with second homes outside of high-cost rural or urban areas will not pay the tax. Only those who own multiple properties and leave them empty in major cities will be asked to contribute. So that was the rationale in 2018. You're putting them back in, and it seems like a different rationale. So can you explain the change of the purpose of the speculation tax and why you're putting these two areas back in?
Well, times have changed, and housing has become more unaffordable, and communities are asking for it. And I think it's important to point out that 99% of British Columbians don't pay the SVT, and it's majority of the people that pay it are people that live outside of British Columbia. So that's really important to point out. And as someone that's using a home that, if it's a summer cabin that's only available in the summer, there's rationale, like people can make an appeal. If it's not, it's not set up for winter use and things like that, because that's those are discussions. But we want to make sure that if there's empty homes, that if we can make them that they become a home for people on a permanent basis, that's a good thing.
Did Parksville and Qualicum ask for this? Because I know when they were exempted originally, they had made the argument that they have outside owners from Alberta and the United States, their own tourism properties. They rent them in the peak season. They're not used the rest of the season. That was the original argument. They didn't want it. Have they come to your government and asked to be included, or are you imposing it on them?
The majority of people that we've included are very happy with it. Some people express concerns, a couple, but the majority are very happy. When I spoke to them, all of them yesterday, and people can still rent their summer places out for with the and be excluded from the summer vacancy or from the SVT as long as it's for 6 months, or they can rent it out permanently, or they can sell it, or they can pay the tax.
But did Parksville and Qualicum ask for it?
They are very happy with the decision.
But did they ask for it?
We've had a number of communities that have asked.
Our next question comes from
No, I guess the answer is no. I'm not trying to.
I'll double check, because I have a list here. I just have to go back and double check them. Okay. Yeah, I'll double check for you.
Our next question comes from Dirk Meisner, Canadian Press.
Hi, Minister. Is there a number of how many rental units the spec tax has ended up creating since 2018?
It's since 2018. It's well over. It's well over like 20,000 just in the Lower Mainland. So, and I'll get the exact numbers for the rest of the province, but it's substantial.
Okay, and on the weekend at the convention, the Premier said during a news conference that it appears the short-term rental accommodation law has created more rental units. You can already see that there's more rental units out there. Is that the case? And do you have any idea how many that might be?
That's the case, but I'm going to let Minister Callan talk about the numbers.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Well, we don't have exact numbers yet, but we have early indications that the changes that we've made are having impacts in communities. I know, for an example, many buildings have many units that have gone on sale because people have chosen not to. People in the communities continue to tag me on posts where people are posting on social media that they used to be a short-term rental and now that they're renting it for long-term and looking for long-term tenants. Had one recently where someone ended up getting it and turning it into a daycare in the community. So we know it's already having impacts, but we will have more concrete data, and we believe the biggest impact will come in when the principal residence requirement kicks in next year.
Next question comes from Amelia McCower, CBC Radio Canada.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what you said, Minister Conroy. You said that a few communities were concerned and they shared that with you. If you could just tell us which one of these communities had concerns and what were they?
Well, I'll just tell you what the concern was. I haven't got permission to share the actual conversation with the mayor. One of the concern was around areas in their community that were built for tourists, for vacation rentals, and he is happy to see the SVT in his community, but he had some concerns around those folks that have built these homes on areas like golf courses or on lakes, and so we had a chat about that. But as we're saying, that people can choose to pay the tax, they can sell their home if they don't want to pay the tax, or they can rent it out a minimum of 6 months. So. Thank you. And my other question is for Minister Callan. I was wondering, for the legislation regarding transit, why not impose a certain percentage of affordable housing and just basically relying on the good willingness of municipalities?
Well, we know when it comes to transit-oriented development that it's more complex than to say, here's what the set formula will be in every single community. That's why we're leaving the ability for local governments to identify what type of housing mix they want in each unit, aligned to their housing needs report, what levels of affordability that they want, if there's heritage-related areas, how do they want to mitigate those risks. So we have built a lot of flexibilities for TOD specifically. The only thing we're saying with the legislation is that local governments can't require a certain amount of parking. There will be parking, but each project will be judged project by project, and that they can't deny certain heights or certain density on units. But local governments still have a say. They're still going to be able to ensure that their housing needs reports, which they're required to do, will be reflected in that housing that's being built.
Next question comes from Wolf Debner, Black Press.
Thank you. Question to Minister Conroy. You said earlier that the majority of municipalities were happy when you spoke with them yesterday. So are we to be under the impression that municipalities only found out about this yesterday?
With the new expansion,
Correct.
yes. Yeah. It's a tax policy, so we're pretty tight-lipped on until it's actually announced.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the list of the communities here, so basically the entire Highway 97 corridor in the Okanagan is now subject to the tax, except for Oliver and Osoyoos. Why are those two communities not in it?
How it's done is it's done by a team of experts who look at vacancy rates. They look at housing, and the cost of housing, how it's gone up, how it's gone, and they look at the number of people in the area, the percentage of people that actually have vacant homes that are that don't live there, that don't pay taxes in that community. And at this time, it was decided not to include those two communities.
Next question comes from Emily Vance, CBC.
Yeah, just wondering, of the communities on the list, which communities had the highest rate of vacant homes?
The highest rate? I think I remember that. The highest rate of vacant homes? That'd be Lake Country.
Okay. And just curious, what impact, broadly speaking, do you expect this will have on rental stock in these communities?
I think it'll have a significant impact, and that's when I had the conversations with the mayors. Every mayor said that they saw the benefit of this in their community, so they did see that. And they know that it'll help, and because we've seen it help in other communities. I mean, we've seen what $313 million back into the pockets of the government to put into the pockets of the community so that we can build more homes. The fact that there's more housing rentals in Metro Vancouver is significant. So we know that it's working, and the fact that mayors, they're asking for it at UBCM, and all of these mayors see the benefit when I talked to them yesterday that it's going to have in their communities.
Next question comes from Les Lynn, Times columnist.
Well, thanks. You said houses shouldn't be left empty, period, during your speech. Is that old-fashioned idea about having a summer place, is that headed towards extinction?
What we're saying is that we don't think that homes should be used as speculation by investors. What we're saying is that if there's a home in a community, in a municipality that could be used that could be rented, other than maybe rented out or used once a year for a few weeks, that it should be. And there's many summer homes. I mean, I'm from the interior, Les, you know that. There's many summer homes and cottages that they can't be used for housing in the winter. They're a summer home. So I don't see that changing. And the majority of the people that have summer homes are in regional districts or in tourist-based towns. So we're looking at those, but those are some of the issues that people have raised.
Okay. Can I ask Mayor Douglas a question? Yeah. Specifically, I was curious how this is going over in somewhere like Maple Bay in your municipality, and maybe Quamachin Lake as well. I picture some summer homes there owned by outsiders. How's it work? How's the SVT working out in your municipality?
Yeah, so we were part of the announcement at end of 2022, so it applies for 2023, but the filings won't take place until the next calendar year. When the province did announce that we were being included as a taxable area, it was partly in response to requests from our municipality. We had asked to be included, and as I was saying in my earlier comments, we've been sandwiched in between Victoria and Nanaimo, and there was concern that excluding us was going to put upward pressure on our housing prices. Yes, since we put in our requests and since the province announced that we were being included, I mean, I certainly haven't received any negative feedback from anyone in my community about the expansion of the SVT.
Our next question comes from Alec Lazenby, BC Today.
Hi, Minister Conroy. And so my first question is just around, you talked about how communities that don't want to be part of the tax aren't being included in certain situations, but you also say the list of communities that are being placed under the tax is compiled by experts within the ministry. So how much say do municipalities have over whether they are part of the tax, and how much of it is, the province stepping in and going, this is a provincial decision, we need these homes, you're going to be part of the tax?
Well, so far everybody's been happy about it, so it's not like it's something that's detrimental to the communities. So we are working with UBCM. We're working with municipalities. We're listening to them. We all met with mayors and councils at UBCM, and the majority of the ones that I met with, they had different issues, but many of them raised this tax and asked for it in their community.
And my second question is actually for Minister Callan. So Mayor Krogh of Nanaimo came out with a letter today asking for modifications to Bill 44, specifically around the cost of infrastructure that communities will face with massive upscaling of multi-family homes. I was just wondering, what's your response to that letter? And, I know the government has come out with Growing Communities Fund and other initiatives to help communities with infrastructure, but more and more communities are coming forward with saying they're going to have problems with the massive upscaling in terms of infrastructure like roads and sewers. Just wondering, what's your response to that letter?
Well, first off, the reason why small-scale multi-units is becoming more popular move in jurisdictions around the world is that this type of housing actually requires less infrastructure upgrades because the infrastructure is already there. We know, for example, Metro Vancouver did a report recently around small-scale multi-units and highlighted that this is the most effective way to get more housing without additional infrastructure needing to be put in communities. That's why this type of housing is being focused in areas where there's development already happening. We provided the communities with the Growing Community Fund. We have now created a new financing tool that the local governments have the ability to capture dollars for fire halls, police stations, etc., for a growing community. So in the end, we believe that we can get both housing and ensure we have vibrant, healthy communities with those important amenities. We can do both of them at the same time, and we believe that can happen in Nanaimo. It can happen in communities throughout BC.
A final question comes from the phone. Mary Burke, Island Social Trends.
Hi, Minister Kalon. At the convention on the weekend, I believe the Premier and yourself said that BC is not waiting for the federal government to help out with housing. And in the federal fiscal update yesterday, all the money seems to be rolling starting 2025. So I'm just wondering if your full suite of legislation this fall covers everything that you were planning to do, or if there's anything extra you're going to do as a result of what was not announced yesterday.
Well, we have a few more things coming, so we're not done yet. But I will say that the positive piece of the fiscal update was the additional $15 billion for purpose-built rentals financing. Still some details yet to be heard on what that will look like, but I think that's positive. But the challenges with the announcement is a lot of the money is 2025, 2026, and people are struggling now. We saw a line about co-ops in there. Unfortunately, the money that they signaled was announced many years ago. It still hasn't gone to co-ops. The $1 billion that they've said that is going to be additional for building affordable housing is not very much money when you think it's across the country. So that could be maybe, $70 million, a couple of projects in British Columbia. Although we welcome the dollars, we believe more needs to be done. And there's some details I think still we need to hear from the federal government, but we need them to be in a bigger player in this space. They have been making some moves as of late. I know that they have infrastructure dollars in their budgets, and we want to see those dollars flowing to British Columbia, and we want them flowing as quick as possible.
Follow up, Mary?
So a trend that seems to be happening in Victoria, this is around the speculation tax, is that houses that are now up for rent have been jacked up in price like $2,000 or $3,000 over what they would normally get for rent. And this seems to be a way for them to hold on to the house as an investment rather than have a tenant. So I'm just wondering if you're aware of this and what part of your legislation would take care of that, if any.
That's you. That's not speculation.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the fundamental challenge we have is that we have a strong economy. We have people from all over the world, across Canada, coming to British Columbia, but our housing has simply not kept pace. I've said many times, and I'll say it again, that we need the private sector to be building certain types of housing, but we really need to build more non-market housing, and that has been our focus. We can't solve the problem with one solution alone. When you have many people looking for a limited amount of rental spaces, you're going to see prices go up. And that's why the strategy that we've launched, all the pieces that we've launched, work together to ensure that we can right-size the amount of supply to the demand in our communities.
Thank you to everyone, and that concludes today's event.
Thanks.